Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yeah, ZakIsCinema is just for all those people out there that have just really enjoyed all of Robert Pattinson's newer movies and try to distance yourself from thinking about his past in the Twilight series. And then you go to tell someone that you really enjoy Robert Pattinson, like his newer movies. He has a new movie coming out. Hey, he has a new movie coming out, and then they just look at you and they're like, "You mean the Twilight guy?" And you're like, well, he did that first for sure. He definitely did those movies, but he's done things since. Like, you should really check out The Lighthouse, The Batman, the movie we're talking about today. You should check those out. And they're like, well, I really enjoyed him in Twilight. Is he playing the same vampire? And you're like, all right, never mind. You can keep watching those Twilight movies because I and the rest of us have moved past. He's a good actor. Today we're going to be doing another movie review today, so let's just jump right into it here. Today we're going to be reviewing and discussing the movie Good Time, which was released in 2017. For Good Time, it was directed by the Safdie brothers. For writers, we got Ronald Bronstein and Josh Safdie. Starring in this movie, we also got Robert Pattinson and Benny Safdie. One of the Safdie brothers also starred in this. How cool. But the plot for Good Time follows our characters after a botched bank robbery lands his younger brother in prison. Connie embarks on a twisted odyssey through New York City to get his brother Nick out of jail. So as we hop into this review, I'm deciding to review this movie Good Time because we got a new Robert Pattinson movie coming out at the end of this week called Mickey 17, which looks really good. Definitely looking forward to that one. So I thought, hey, well, what better time to talk about our boy Robert Pattinson than right now. He's got a new movie coming out, so we're taking a look back at one of my favorite movies he's done. So yes, I remember watching this movie once, right after it came out back in 2017. This is when I started getting into more non-mainstream kind of movies. Found my love for the beautiful production company, which is A24. I call it A24. I realize no one else calls it that, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, that's when I started getting into, non-mainstream stuff. And I remember this one being a really big deal when it came out because it was a bigger movie for Robert Pattinson after he was done with the Twilight movies. He also did this movie. He was getting great reviews, all about talking about his performance as well. And after people saw this, people started taking him much more serious. So I remember when this came out and it kind of all started with this movie that sent him on this big trajectory. And, now he's Batman. So I guess it all started with Good Time is what I'm saying here. For Good Time, let's jump into the review here, starting with the positives or the things that I just really enjoyed about this movie. So first, for Good Time, I really love how simple and straight to the point this movie is. The best thriller movies, I feel like, always have such a simple plot, but they keep throwing crazy situations, crazy scenarios at our characters, which helps keep the pacing and the tension moving along. And this movie is a prime example of just doing something straight to the point, simple, but throwing a bunch of shit at our characters and seeing what they do with it. I think it succeeds on that level for such a simple thriller that's always really enjoyable, at least to me. Next here, I also really love how this movie starts out and the introduction to our two main characters. So first, it starts off with a great scene with Connie's brother Nick, and he's in a meeting. It seemed like some sort of therapy session or caseworker session, and right there, it kind of tells us everything we need to know about Nick just based off the interaction between him and his therapist. Didn't need any exposition. It's all delivered through dialogue and interactions. I feel like a lesser movie maybe would have just had his brother Connie come in and start lore dumping Nick's backstory and his disabilities that he struggles with, and then Connie maybe would have broken down crying, saying, "Oh, I have to take care of my brother. It's so hard. It's so difficult." it doesn't do anything like that. We see the interaction between him and the therapist. Even in this scene, we see Nick crying and the therapist doesn't even really react to it. So it's a neat, subtle little detail that shows just everyone around him does not care about him the way that his brother does. So it's a great scene there. You get to know Nick and with some of his disabilities that he's got going on, and then it shows how other people interact and talk to him and treat him. And so it's a great introduction for Nick, and then boom, like 30 seconds later, we get the introduction to Connie, his brother, barging in the room, taking his brother away, telling him he knows what's best for him. He's got to get him out of here. He's yelling, saying everyone's treating him wrong. So we get a great introduction for Connie, as well as it shows Connie very frantic, trying to take care of his brother, trying to do what he thinks is best for his brother. But then it also shows Connie's weakness a little bit here in assuming he knows what's best for Nick and ignoring everybody else around him. Because these people, these therapists, might not be treating Nick the way that Connie does, or might not be treating Nick up to Connie's standards, but it doesn't mean that they're not helping. But Connie sees this and sees it as people taking advantage of him or not treating his brother how he should be treated, and takes matters into his own hand, not only trying to get a sense of control, but showing that power dynamic and relationship between Nick and his brother Connie. So I think it's such a beautiful opening scene that really gives a lot for Nick, it gives a lot for Connie, and it gives a lot between our relationship between these two brothers. So absolutely love the introduction here. Also, spoilers as well. It's been out since 2017, people. Okay, I should get in the habit of saying that in the beginning probably, but fair warning, we got some spoilers here. After this introduction scene, after the therapist scene, I just love how this movie is so full of tension. And after this quick introduction, we hop right into that tension and the plot of the movie. Connie gets Nick right out of therapy. They go right into a bank robbery. And then as they're getting away, as you think everything's working out for them, that like pink explosion that they put in bags to not only mark the robbers, but to also mark the money so it's unusable, just starts to explode in their getaway vehicle. And then they're just on the run right after that throughout the entire movie. So great introduction, throws us right into the action, the tension, and then right after that, things just keep going wrong and going wrong and going wrong. I'm gushing over this movie if you can't tell, but I love how it starts off, throws us right into this tension-fueled, panic-fueled movie that we're going to be experiencing. Speaking of that, I really do enjoy how the Safdie brothers direct and write their movies. They make their movies feel so panic-fueled and full of anxiety. Like, it's not just tension, it's anxiety and panic in the story and in our characters as well. One way that they do this is through dialogue and panic, through our characters shouting in scenes, shouting over people, talking over people. They do this a lot in Uncut Gems, and I think in this movie it helps to show the panic and lack of control, specifically with Connie's character. I think they do it in this movie not in a way that it makes it tough to sit through, or just like you're like, oh, I'm missing important dialogue scenes here. But no, they do it in a way where it just shows our characters and how they would react to all the crazy shit going on around them. In these scenarios that these brothers and Connie are in, you wouldn't just be like having a casual conversation like you're doing right now with ZakIsCinema. You wouldn't be like talking, pausing, waiting for the other person to go. It's panic fueled. There's a time element here, so they gotta hurry up. So it makes sense to have that panic just fueled through our characters and through the dialogue with everyone like shouting over each other. So it's unique, it's interesting, and I feel like it's a tough line to kind of balance because it could become just obnoxious and stupid, but they do it really well where it makes sense, and it makes sense for our characters to be doing that. Again, speaking of the tension in this movie, the Safdies do a fantastic job at making sure something in their movies, especially with this one, is always happening. Never a dull moment. For example, you get that great opening, then Connie, after they run away with the money, Nick gets caught, so Connie wants to bail his brother out of jail, but doesn't have enough money. It's late. places aren't open, there's no judge available. He figures some stuff out, goes to bail his brother out. His friend's card declines. Connie doesn't have the money, so just like even talking about it's just like stressing me out a little bit because nothing goes right and issues keep stacking on top of each other. It's not like maybe a traditional movie where there's a conflict, they resolve it, then maybe the next conflict starts. It's like there's a conflict, they go to fix it, which creates another conflict, but then they haven't resolved that other conflict, and then another conflict stacks on top of it. Not only with how they write dialogue, have characters like shouting over each other, just the plot, the story, the things going on in this movie just keeps stacking up and building that tension throughout the entire runtime. Like I hinted at in the beginning with our boy Robert Pattinson, I think he does a great job in this movie and really helped to show everyone that Twilight was behind him. It wasn't on him. It wasn't his fault. We forgive you. He can really do a lot when you hand him good directors and a good script. So he does a lot here, and he does a lot with not a lot of backstory given to his character too. Just through his interactions, you could see everything he does is for his brother, and he really cares for his brother and will do anything for him. But then he's more of a conflicted character because the more times he tries to help out his brother, his decisions are only making things worse for himself and his brother Nick. But you could tell he doesn't know how to fully stop himself, but you could tell he wants to fully help his brother, but then by doing so, he keeps making things worse, making situations worse. But at the same time, you could tell he's doing it from a place of love for his brother and wanting to help him out. They do a nice job at not having to bog down this movie with giving us unnecessary backstory or exposition scenes for our brother character Connie, but just through his interactions, his character choices, it says a lot and it tells us a lot about him. Next here, I really enjoyed how they used lighting in this movie, and I have to rewatch Uncut Gems because I think they do something kind of similar, but the Safdie brothers do this neat thing where pretty much just the environment and the lights in the environment light the scenes around our characters. So you could tell that they use like city lights, store lights to light scenes. There's even a couple scenes in a house where it's really just the TV lighting the environment. I like that because it helps make the movie stand out a little bit more, but then also helps to make the environment and the city around our characters almost feel like a whole separate character in and of itself. So it's really interesting, and I really appreciated seeing that on this most recent rewatch. Also here, I really enjoyed the last half of this movie. I think it's fantastic. It finds a way to ramp everything up even more with Connie's desperate attempts to help his brother. Again, he just keeps making things worse, but he's doing it from a good place, trying to help, but everything he does just causes things to crumble all around him. And all these bad decisions we've been seeing him make throughout the entire night finally catch up with him and come crumbling down on top of him at the end. Again, spoilers here, but I love how it wraps up with Connie getting arrested. He stops trying to escape and make things worse. He helps his brother get absolved from his crimes and owns up to how he was treating his brother in a selfish way. Finally takes that pressure off of his brother and just mans up and accepts his punishment here. I think it shows our character here that he finally sees that every decision he made is worse for his brother, even though it's coming from a place of love. But the best thing he can do for his brother and the situation that they're in now is to just take himself out of the equation. It's almost like this beautiful self-sacrifice where you don't want to see it happen, but you know it has to happen, and there's really no other way. Both of these brothers are gonna, or at least Nick, because Nick's like the most innocent person ever that just gets wrapped up into all of this, even though he didn't do anything. Like, you want to see a happy ending for Nick, but we've been following Connie, so you want to see a happy ending for him, but you know it's just impossible. They both can't get the happy ending here, so his brother recognizes that and finally makes a good decision to stop all of this once all his bad decisions just get too much and crumble on top of him. I think it's such a beautiful moment that's also a little bittersweet in the best way, because you could tell his brother cares for him, and in that ending scene when he's in that group therapy session, you could tell at first he just kind of feels lost without his brother, and it's so sad seeing him just try to interact with everyone, knowing his brother's not going to be there. His brother's not going to be there to pick him up. But then it ends off on a little glimpse of happiness there, knowing that Nick's going to be okay, and you see him kind of slowly participate in that group. So the movie ends off knowing that, Nick's going to get accustomed to this and finally be surrounded by people who are actually going to make his life a little bit better. So amazing. I really, really do enjoy how this whole thing wraps up. I enjoy the journey of the movie. I enjoy a lot of things about this, but let's jump into my negatives, or the things that I just didn't enjoy too much about this movie. I'll say this right off the bat, none of these negatives really take away from my experience. I mostly see them as nitpicks. I really do enjoy this movie. I don't think it affects the quality or anything like that. But first, I do wish that there was just a little more interactions between the brothers, between Nick and Connie, especially before Nick gets arrested and put in the hospital. I wanted to see more character building moments between the brothers, more interactions, because I think it would have made the ending even more devastating and emotionally impactful. You get a lot in the brief scenes with them together, but it's very, very early on where the characters are separated permanently throughout the entire runtime, and it's mostly Connie trying to get back to Nick to take him away so they can live this life together. I think it would have resonated more. I think it would have hit a little bit harder if there was more development between those two, because the little bit of the couple of scenes that we do get are really enjoyable, and I'm like, I wish we had more of that. Like, maybe if they could have stopped at a diner first before robbing a bank, and we could have gotten a little bit more of that. But again, little nitpicky there too. Next here, I also just don't like how abrupt this ending kind of feels to me. I think the note it leaves off on and the character decisions, how it wraps everything up, is absolutely beautiful and perfect, especially that ending scene with Nick in the group therapy session. But it's almost like the Connie stuff feels just like, it's done now. Okay. Like, I wanted a little bit more there. Like, the whole movie, he was evading these things, and then in his last scene, he just gets caught, and it felt like, to me, it came and went pretty quickly for a character that we've been spending this entire runtime following. So that was a little frustrating. I feel like I would have maybe liked to seen him end up maybe getting his brother out somehow, and they're on the run together as things start to crumble based off of all of Connie's decisions from the night. Then it puts Connie in a situation where he literally and figuratively has to choose himself or his brother, and he could choose to give up, get arrested to save his brother. So again, I think this would have made the ending feel a little bit bigger, more climatic, and also helped to show the brother relationship a little bit more by actually showing that literal and figurative sacrifice that Connie has to go through. I like how he gets caught and everything. I just wish there was a couple more scenes with like the brothers, and then Connie would actually have to sacrifice himself in front of his brother so his brother could see that. Like, I think there was a little bit more they could have done there. Again, a little frustrating with that. Another nitpick here, there's a hospital scene, again spoilers, where he goes in trying to get his brother out. Turns out he took the wrong person from the hospital. Great twist, fantastic twist that adds more tension. But in the hospital his brother's supposed to be staying at is for prisoners, it's for criminals, and there's like one cop there, and then the cop goes on break, and then that's when Connie goes in and takes the person that he thinks is his brother. So again, very, very nitpicky, but it's just frustrating seeing some of those hospital scenes because there's way more staff. There's always way more security, especially on a prison criminal floor wing. It was a little like, maybe you could have done more where Connie could have distracted more people and led to a great scene there, but it just feels a little convenient in that particular moment. And I think it sticks out more because the rest of the movie is so detail oriented and he has to do these specific things to get out of these specific issues. But in this one, in the hospital scene, it just felt very, very convenient. But overall, I think this is a fantastic little crime thriller movie that is a great movie to help us see Pattinson's career and his trajectory that he would be going on after this, help make people realize that he is a serious and really good actor. I think it's a great movie with interesting characters, tight pacing that makes you feel the panic, and constant tension throughout. For my rating for this movie, I have it as, I don't currently own this one, but that's not because I don't like it. I will look to buy it as soon as I can to add to my collection, and I'd be fine paying the full price for whatever this Blu-ray is. So you guys have my thoughts here. Again, I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know down below. What are your thoughts on Good Time? Did you see it when it came out? Have your thoughts changed over time? Let me know what your favorite Robert Pattinson movie is. Are you looking forward to Mickey 17? But yeah, thanks again. I really appreciate anybody watching my videos. So thank you so much. And yeah, look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.